Hello and welcome to One Track Mind. I'm Michael.
And I'm Raptor.
And today we're going to be looking at Season 5, Episode 7, Fully Dilated. We begin with the Cerritos investigating another anomalous fissure where a purple Enterprise D has entered. They miss all the fun stuff with a battle with evil Tasha Yars, but they are basically there on cleanup duty. And find out that some debris has landed on pre-warp Detmer 3. Mariner, Tendi, and T'Lyn are all tasked with destroying whatever has landed on the planet. And we also learn that Captain Freeman is looking for a new senior science officer, which both Tendi and T'Lyn are vying for, which kind of sets up the conflict for the episode. On Detmer 3, there is a time anomaly where every second on the Cerritos is a week on the planet, which is something we've definitely seen before in Star Trek.
Yep. In fact, they even mention it in the episode that it's like the planet in Voyager.
And thanks to Boimler and Rutherford spilling their Bloody Mary-esque cocktails on the transporter panel, what should have been a short trip turns into, I think it was 10 months altogether.
Yes, 10 months altogether.
Once they arrive on the planet, they are immediately suspected by nosy lurker named Snell, who was probably my favorite character in the episode, actually. He's just
very Romulan. I thought the episode was going to reveal that he's actually like a Romulan in disguise as well, but
I mean, in literally every pre-warp planet style episode, there is a lurker who just is there to suspect the people from the crew, like every single time, and he fills that role very nicely. Once they get to the site of the wreckage, they start disintegrating everything that they can find, but then they find a severed head of a purple Data, who is voiced by Brent Spiner, which was pretty nice. And while they wait for Boimler and Rutherford to clean up their mess and actually beam them back, they take over an abandoned house and settle into, any form of life that they can start up for themselves. Mariner wants to live out a fulfilling life like Picard did in that probe episode and heads out to be somehow impactful on the community.
Which goes well.
Yeah, which goes great. Tendi finds a way to reanimate Data's head in order to compete with T'Lyn, who is, excelling at agriculture. But yeah, Mariner's plan goes terribly as she accidentally assaults someone and is thrown in jail almost immediately. Basically keeps her out of the episode for a little while. And as the episode goes on, Tendi keeps up with her competition, trying to create a better power source for Data, and eventually trying to create a teleporter pad to get them back up to the Cerritos on their own. But she still feels like she's falling short of what T'Lyn is able to do, because her agriculture, like the produce she's making, is incredibly massive. Like she somehow managed to isolate the specific DNA to make like the largest produce anyone has ever seen.
Yeah, these are not melons, these are grapes.
In order to compete, Tendi decides to forgo sleep altogether, since Vulcans need very little sleep, and she thinks that's the only way she can keep up. And again, after being on the planet for about 10 months, Tendi is getting close to finishing her transporter pad. Meanwhile, T'Lyn has created a hair care beauty line for the entire town using said produce, and she managed to do it without breaking the Prime Directive, so good on her. At one point, Mariner does actually get out of jail, then immediately goes back after dousing the town's eternal flame. So again, Mariner is trying her best to be impactful on the community, and in a way she is, but not in the way she wants. Boimler and Rutherford are finally able to beam them back after they lick the panel clean, which, if I'll be honest, it was probably the only humor in the episode that did not make me laugh. I was kind of just annoyed by that situation. I was like, I don't know, the whole frantically trying to clean it, then having to lick it clean, I thought was just kind of silly, but not in a fun way. I was just kind of irritated with that. But once they get the signal, T'Lyn decides to head back to warn Tendi that it's about time to beam up. Tendi has an argument with Data, and just as T'Lyn comes back, Snell reveals that he's been lurking and watching the entire time, jumps down and knocks out T'Lyn just as Tendi falls into a very deep sleep because she's so exhausted. Snell then goes out to get the angry mob to come back with him, but after a little heart-to-heart, Tendi and T'Lyn work together to free themselves using Data's teeth, and they do make a rather funny, fully functional joke that I did enjoy. They go and free Mariner, and then manage to trick the mob into thinking that Snell mistook one of the giant grapes with a face painted on it was the talking head. Then they get beamed back up to the Cerritos, send Data back to his purple universe, and T'Lyn and Tendi are both given the senior science officer position. And the episode ends with the group reminding Boimler and Rutherford that they both owe them, and Mariner very badly plays her soap flute that she was trying to learn in jail. But yeah, overall, I enjoyed this episode quite a bit, but I think it was one of the first situations where there were several bits of humor that did not land for me. Like, there were some jokes that were, I don't know, I guess the best way to describe them would be vulgar, like to the point of just not being funny to me. Like, I did not really appreciate does the hole match the carpets kind of joke. I was just like, ew. I don't know. It was just a little too raunchy during like certain moments of the episode that I did not enjoy. But there were other bits that were quite funny, as usual for Lower Decks.
Hang on. I'm confused. You found "Does the hull match the carpets" a raunchy reference? I thought it was it's just them commenting if the hull of the Enterprise D color.
You never heard that joke before?
No.
It's asking if your pubes match your hair color. That's what that joke means.
I've never heard it say in that.
Does the carpet match the drapes?
Well, I've heard it like that, but I've not heard. I guess I must have been a bit naive and probably still too much for Trekkie to think that perhaps she was literally referring to the hull of the ship.
But like I said, there were jokes in there that I found very funny. Like, I laughed very loud at Data's suggestion to Captain Freeman. It's just like, so you have an Enterprise here as well? Like, yeah, but it's more of a neutral gray. It's very odd considering you have purple as an option. Just thought that was fucking great.
I mean, Lower Decks for me, the humor can be very hit and miss just because generally I'm not particularly a big fan of sort of slapstick humor, which a lot of Lower Decks' humor tends to fall into. But yeah, there was a lot of humor that did work for me in this episode, particularly around Data. I thought Tandy's response to Data when she was getting really annoyed, and that I'm getting real sick of your sass, Data. He's just trying to get her to go to sleep.
He can be quite sassy and just doesn't realize it.
Apart from that, the actual episode's concept, it's a pretty classic Star Trek episode. You know, the whole go down to planet to get rid of technology lest it interfere with the planet's development, with the added bonus of the time dilation effect. I thought that there were some nice references in here. Obviously, the whole concept is like the Voyager episode. Mariner mentions having a Carbon Creek moment, which is another reference to Enterprise and the true first contact that Enterprise wrote in between Vulcans and humans.
I will say, I don't necessarily like when the show makes references like that, just because it's too meta for me, to the point where I'm like, I know the characters in universe would not say this. Like, they wouldn't say the title of an episode. And for me, that kind of pulls me out of it every once in a while. So I don't really like when they do super meta references like that.
I mean, that was named after the town that was in the episode as well. So I suppose in that way, it's not the episode, it's the town. But I get what you mean. Sometimes the references can be overly specific. It's like what Una says in the crossover episode with Strange New Worlds, like, their references are strangely specific.
They made another one in this episode where they also said the title of an episode. I can't remember what it was, though. I remember it sticking out to me, though, and I was just like, nah, stop doing that.
I did like Data's little reference to I have been just ahead before.
Oh, yeah. That was good.
Which indicates that Purple Data's had just as many. Oh, I think I know the one you were referring to. It's where Data was talking about him at the end of that Next Gen 2-parter where Mark Twain, Picard, and Thingamajig finds his head buried under the town.
I mean, that's not specifically what I'm referencing. Like, I'm mentioning another moment in the episode where they say the title of an episode.
I must have missed that one, because the only one I heard was Carbon Creek. So obviously, at least this episode, we have got back to the dimensional holes thing. But again, I feel like the whole dimensional hole thing, Purple Enterprise thing, was kind of not really as touched on as I thought was going to be necessary. Instead, we're just kind of assuming that they just close it at the end of the episode and Purple Data gets back to his ship fine. And again, I kind of feel like they're not really interacting with the thing that they've set up for this season to have as the arc, which seems a bit strange to me.
Yeah, they only have 3 episodes left as well, so they don't have too much time to explore it, which makes me think it's going to be just kind of a gag reason why these fissures are opening up. Because again, they don't have all that much time to really explore it now. We've spent most of the season doing just kind of standalone stuff.
The only other thing I would say about this particular episode is I find it very hard to believe that in the 24th century that computer consoles are not waterproof.
I also thought
or whatever they were drinking. Like, come on. Like, are they really not waterproof, that if you spill whatever that horrible goo was that they were drinking over it, it immediately breaks?
I was like a little frustrated when it was shocking them as they were like licking it. I was just like, I feel like it wouldn't do that. But I mean, I guess.
Not to mention, like, we have seen them handle spillages on the ship before, and they just pull out their phasers on what I assume is some ultra low setting and just vaporize it away.
True.
So I'm like, why is it suddenly now you can't just grab a phaser and vaporize it away? I probably with you that the whole slapstick humor of let's clean up this goo didn't really fit.
It's just perhaps a bit too silly for me. Didn't quite land.
But yeah, apart from that, it was okay, entertaining, but perhaps nothing really standouty about it. It was just another entertaining episode. And I feel that that's kind of been the way of all of the episodes this season so far. They've been alright, but for a final season, I haven't yet encountered anything in here that's going to make me remember this final season.
Yeah, I hate to say it, but I feel like Discovery did its final season a little better just because it was the best of the Discovery seasons. It felt like they really amped it up, whereas here it feels like you might have gone down a peg, at least just a little bit. I'm still enjoying it, obviously, but I'm not enjoying it as much as I enjoyed season 3 and 4.
No. So we'll have to see how they end it. But yeah, let us know down in the comments what you guys think. Obviously, we'll keep reviewing these, and I hope they get better towards the end.
I would agree. I would like to see them really hone in, get something quite nice going for the last stretch.
But yeah, until next time, it's goodbye from me.
And goodbye from me.